So this video is all about how to get over betrayal, and it was actually a request on Instagram. So I really appreciate when you guys message me and tell me different topics that you'd like me to make videos on. Betrayal is a really painful topic, which is why I'm wearing my Space and Cats shirt to try and mellow it out. It can be something that can totally ruin your life. I think all of us have experienced betrayal. I've experienced some really brutal betrayal. And it can ruin your present moment. It can make you bitter. It can make you suspicious. It can make you miserable and hurt and depressed and all of those sorts of things. And then also, if you don't heal it, it can really impact your future or even current relationships, whether they be friendships, whether they be romantic relationships, whether they be business relationships. So it's really, really important that we talk about how to get over betrayal. And there's actually 4 steps that need to be done in a specific order in order to do this. My name is Jennifer Van Wyk, and I'm an aid worker, a psychotherapist, and a best-selling author. Okay, so first things first, the most important step whenever you're experiencing any sort of pain is to take care of your heart first. It doesn't matter. You don't have to do any evaluations. If you are in pain or you're hurt or your feelings are hurt, first thing you do right away is you take care of your heart. Your heart needs to be the most important thing for you because you are the only one that can really take care of it. If you don't take care of your heart and somebody else does, it just doesn't have the same impact. It doesn't, maybe it feels nice for a little bit, but it doesn't quite penetrate as deeply as when you take some time to just connect with your heart, empathize with all the emotions that it's feeling. We don't have to judge them yet. That we will get to that stage, but step 1 is really just being there with your heart, just saying, oh, that super sucks. I can see that you're in so much pain. Oh my goodness, I can't believe this happened. I'm so sorry you're here. I'm gonna take care of you. I'm here for you, okay? This is a step that people often want to just skip over, or they're like, oh yeah, I know I'm hurt, and I spent some time, but they don't really go into like actually feeling that hurt and understanding that hurt. And it's similar, the metaphor, it's a bit morbid, but it's similar to arriving at the scene of a car crash, right? The first thing you do is you make sure everybody gets medical attention. That is the most important thing. Afterwards is when you kind of study the scene, decide who needs to pay for what, whose fault was at what, all that sort of thing, what happened, that sort of thing, right? So we will get to that part. That is actually step 2. But step 1, let's give yourself some much needed, profound medical attention, okay? It's not selfish. It's not being, people worry that they're being like wallowing in self-pity. No. This is step 1. We won't stay here, but you really need to take care of your heart and your emotions. Doesn't matter if this betrayal happened years ago. If you haven't done this yet, that is the first thing you need to do. I do have a visualization on the heart connection, which is exactly perfect for doing this sort of work. It can go very deeply and very profoundly. And give yourself the love and care and nurturing that maybe you've never received before, right? So this can even heal really horrible childhoods, things like that, okay? So that's step 1. Step 2, now that we've like understood what's going on for your heart, we understand how they're feeling, what they need, all that sort of stuff. We've kind of gotten them stabilized, right? They're in stable physical condition. Emotional pain is exactly the same as physical pain or physical injuries. So we need to treat it with the same importance. So once you're emotionally stable, that's when you're going to be so much better able to look at the situation in a much clearer way, right? So with betrayal, there's always pain, right? Someone you cared about or someone that was close to you really did something specifically to hurt you, or really kind of threw you under the bus, or whatever it was that happened. Okay, so step 2, now that you're emotionally stable, right? You're in a better place. You can think a little bit more clearly here. Step 2 is to question your beliefs and your assumptions. So a betrayal will always be painful. It's somebody who's really kind of thrown you under the bus, or stabbed you in the back, or stabbed you in the chest multiple times, right? So there is going to be that pain, and that pain is very unavoidable. However, what we often do is we create suffering on top of that. And that suffering is really the meaning that we are creating about this action. So say your business partner stole a bunch of money from you, right? What's the meaning that you're creating about that? Maybe it's that you're stupid, or that you're a bad judge of character, or that you can never trust anyone. Those are all beliefs and assumptions that actually don't have anything to do with the fact that this person stole money. Those beliefs and assumptions are things that are on you. They're beliefs and assumptions that you have, and the meaning that you're creating, right? Maybe someone cheated on you, and then you start to think, oh, well, I'm unlovable, or there's no good partners out there, or I'm never going to be with anyone, right? Those are all assumptions and beliefs that you have the power to choose to believe or to choose not to believe. And when those assumptions or beliefs are very pessimistic, or are not quite accurate, that's what really creates the suffering on top of that pain. And that suffering is completely unnecessary. We often don't realize the meaning that we are making out of these certain things that happen to us. Oh, this happened, that means God hates me. Oh, this happened, that means I'm never going to succeed, right? That meaning, we have to just stop and evaluate. Is that meaning accurate? Is there lots of proof in my life where this is true? This is like in the metaphor of the car crash. This is where you're really trying to evaluate who was at fault. Was the car? What happened to the brakes? Was it raining? All that kind of stuff, right? So you just want to try and look at these beliefs and these assumptions that you've created and take ownership for them, and then choose if you still want to continue putting energy or believing them. And this is something only you can choose, right? Beliefs are just beliefs. They can be changed. It's not always easy, and it's maybe a pattern, and there might be a history of it, and maybe you need some outside support to help you shift these beliefs, or to even help you recognize what they are. But it's really important that you kind of evaluate, because there might even be a situation where you look at it and the person that you think betrayed you, maybe they didn't even actually betray you. Maybe that's an assumption that you've created, or a meaning that you've made out of that situation. And really, there's a whole miscommunication, right? So step 2 is really important only after you do step 1. So step 1, if you're hurt, I don't care why you're hurt, what the story is. I just care that you get attention and that you feel better. Then after that, you can do step 2 and think about, okay, am I overreacting? Was this really the case? Am I seeing things clearly? Is this a pattern in my life? Do I want to have this belief? Have I created this meaning about something? Is that a wound that I need to heal? An unconscious limiting belief. I have a video on that if you want to learn how to clear those, right? So that's a really important step. And then we don't want to stop here either, okay? So step 3 is don't take 200% of responsibility. I find in the whole self-help sphere, there's a wonderful, and I think it's really well-meaning, but it's this idea that like, whatever happens in my life, like I've kind of brought it in, and there's something to learn from it. And I do think we can learn from absolutely everything that happens to us, good or bad, right? we can learn from, I love vicariously learning, right? Learning from the bad things that happen to other people so that I don't do that. So taking 200% is when someone does something that was not okay and you take responsibility for that happening. I mean, I work in disasters, so I work with a lot of people that have been tortured, that have been raped. And this is often a thing that will happen is they'll blame themselves. Oh, why was I walking? Or I should have changed the route so I wouldn't be kidnapped. Or I should have worn something different, or who knows what. But they're taking 200%, right? If someone is a jerk, they're a jerk, that's on them. That's not something you have to say, oh, it's my fault that they're a jerk, or all that sort of thing, right? Like if someone betrays you, they betrayed you. They didn't have to betray you, and that's on them, right? You don't have to take ownership. What you do need to take ownership is what are you going to do with this information, right? Or what are the different beliefs and assumptions that you're creating, or that you're perpetuating, or that you're seeing over and over in your life, right? So look at your beliefs and assumptions and your behavior around that, but you do not ever have to take responsibility for someone else's behavior, right? So oftentimes, if we talk about affairs, there's this idea of, oh, well, we didn't talk, or we hadn't had sex for 3 months, and so that's why they cheated. And I mean, those can all be, for sure, there's something that you can talk about, but there's lots of people that haven't had sex for 3 months and they didn't cheat, right? Like there's different ways to respond to difficulties in your relationship, and how someone responds is on them. Does that make sense? We cannot force someone to respond a certain way. This is the same with interpartner violence. Maybe one is very antagonizing, and so the other person loses their temper and uses violence, but that's on that person for using violence, because there's a lot of different ways that you can deal with and respond to antagonizing people or things that don't go your way, right? So it's really this, and this can be a really tricky thing, but it's understanding what's your responsibility and not taking ownership for what's their responsibility. So if you've been betrayed, and you've analyzed the situation and you really were betrayed, you've looked at your beliefs, you've looked at your assumptions, they really screwed you over, then let that go. That has nothing to do with them. Them screwing you over is not a reflection of who you are. It's a reflection of who they are. That's really, really important. Someone screwing you over is not a reflection of who you are. It's a reflection of who they are. So that's really, really essential to let soak in before you can go to step 4. Step 4 can be one of the hardest ones, and there's multiple little layers of how to do this. Step 4 is to forgive and let go. I'm not saying do this because you need to be a good person or forgiveness is the best, although I am a massive fan of forgiveness. But I'm a massive fan of forgiveness because it helps you. It makes your life better. Screw this person who betrayed you. I don't give a crap about them, right? But I care about you. And when you hold on to that resentment, as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, you're poisoning your own life. You're poisoning your present moment, and you're letting what this person did dictate how your future relationships are going to be. Why give them that power? Don't give them that power. Take your power back, right? And let it go. And to be able to forgive someone, you have to, be okay with your heart, like taking care of your heart so that your heart is not needing other things from somebody else, right? B, you have to look at your assumptions and then try and heal those. C, you have to make sure you're not taking their responsibility, right? So if, for example, your friend steals money from you, right? to forgive them, you need to be like, ouch, that hurt. Ow. I put all this time and effort into this person and they just used me, right? Okay. See, like step 2 is, okay, well, that doesn't mean I'm worthless. And that doesn't mean that I don't deserve to have good people in my life, right? Or I won't have good people in my life. Actually, I deserve to have friends that I can trust. And this is very important to me. And I'm trustworthy, and I expect that respect and trust in return. So, okay, so step 3 is, okay, this wasn't about me. It's not because I was too nice, or I'm put my head in the sand, or I don't want to see things, right? As long as that's the case, because you've looked at that in step 2. It's actually about the fact that this person has this mentality where they feel like they don't have enough money and they need to manipulate people, or they need to steal it from people. And that, to live like that, to feel like you have to betray your closest people so that you can survive, like that's their own personal hell that they're creating, right? And for someone to live like that, I mean, you don't need to punish them anymore, which is often why it's hard to forgive, is we use anger as a way to be like, well, screw you, I'm not going to let you do that again. But really, they're punishing themselves. I sailed across the Atlantic Ocean, and it took us around 2 months. And one of the captain's wife absolutely hated me. Her whole goal in life was to make me miserable. The only time she was happy was when I was like deathly seasick, and then she was like laughing and blah, blah, blah. I write about it in my book. Like it was really insane, because I was trying to contemplate what happiness is. And then you have this person that's actively trying to make you miserable, and you're on a like 15-meter catamaran, right? So there's nowhere to go. So it was perfect, like a perfect storm. It ended with her stealing all the money I had. And I could have, when that happened, I just kind of laughed. This actually wasn't, I don't think it's really a betrayal necessarily, because she was never my friend. But I laughed because it was like, of course she did. And for me, I didn't feel the need to punish her or to do anything. Maybe you do. Like, all of us have our hearts have different needs, and that's really important to listen to, right? But I don't know. I feel like she was just so miserable. I don't need to add on to that. I don't need to have anything to do with that. She can just live her life over there and do what she wants. She's got her path, and it's not an easy path. And actually, I have compassion for her, because her view of life and her reality is not an easy way to live. And so why do I need to punish her or add anger or kick her while she's down? Like, I just don't. And that's kind of part of forgiveness. It's, okay, this person, that's their responsibility. They've got their reality and their path. I don't need to be involved in this anymore. And that's the big thing also about forgiveness that people can really misinterpret, is forgiving isn't about forgetting, right? She showed what kind of person she is. So I don't need to still be really kind and give her more money. I mean, if you want to, you can, but I know who she is. So I'm not going to let her anywhere close to my heart, right? And so I'm going to create boundaries, physical boundaries, so that I don't have to interact with her. That's not my thing, right? When with my big betrayal, I actually had a lot of guilt making those boundaries. And that's, I mean, I can understand if that's maybe how you feel. But it's, even though someone can do a bad thing and it doesn't mean they're a bad person, the fact, if they're doing that bad thing and it's really kind of twisted, you don't by any means need to continue to take that, right? Like, they've shown you where their limits are, and you can really understand that and adjust your life, right? So forgiveness doesn't mean taking the person back or becoming friends with them again or getting back together with them or going back into business with them, right? No. You can learn, right? You want to learn from this situation. That's part of kind of step 2 and step 3 of what's your stuff, what's not your stuff, what's your beliefs, what's not your beliefs, what's your assumptions, what's not your assumptions, what can you get from this situation, and where do you want to go from here? So that's going to really help with forgiveness. If you have questions on this, put them in the comments below. The last thing with forgiveness is forgiveness isn't forgetting. And this is what one of my teachers said just a couple weeks ago. I'm studying with the Ruiz family, which is the gentleman that wrote the 4 Agreements. And they said that forgiveness is about not wanting the outcomes to be different, not wanting to go back in time and change it. So that's a very hard thing to achieve. Sometimes it takes years. Again, sometimes you might need some extra support with this. But actually, I was also listening to a podcast where I think it was like 90% of people who went through severe trauma, like lost a child, had been tortured, had been raped, blah, blah, blah. 10 years later, and it might take a couple years, right? 90% of people said that they wouldn't have changed that event because from that event can come all these wonderful, beautiful things. And so that's the thing to keep in mind with your betrayal of, yes, it hurts to be betrayed and it super sucks. I genuinely understand that. And there's still beautiful things that can really come from it. And when you realize those beautiful things that can come from it, it helps you really let go and forgive. You don't have to when you're angry with someone or bitter or resentful, it's like you're connected to them still. You don't have to maintain that connection. You just cut that connection off. Let them go on their merry way, very far from you, and you can continue and get the learning and, the understanding of the assumptions that you created or the beliefs that maybe are limiting you, and you can go on your merry way as well with your life so wonderful and beautiful, right? If someone cheats on you, are you going to let them ruin the rest of your life and not trust any other people after that? It's ridiculous. It's not good for you because that person also gives zero poops about what you're doing now, right? So why give them that power? So that's what forgiveness is all about. It's just letting it go. You can do Ho'oponopono, which is a visualization that's also, you can find on my channel. And Ho'oponopono is 4 lines. It's, I'm so sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. Now, this might seem weird to do it to someone who's betrayed you, although you can. But another way to think of it is sometimes we feel there's a part of us that feels like we betrayed ourselves. And so you can do this Ho'oponopono technique to that part of you that feels like you betrayed it. That can be absolutely extremely healing. Another technique that you can use is imagining that you're just putting this betrayal in a balloon and then just watching it float away, right? But again, for you to let go of something and to move on, you need to understand, like, what are the lessons that you can get from this? What are the limiting beliefs or the wounds that you've discovered and you want to focus on healing? Because all of those are phenomenal opportunities to grow and expand and become a fuller, more authentic version of yourself. And so in the end, betrayal, as painful as it is, for me even, I mean, it's been a few years now, and thank fuck, you know, like, I'm so glad it happened, because if it hadn't, then I would still maybe be in that situation. And now instead I'm in a situation that's much more beautiful, much more joyful than I ever could have imagined. So it is possible to let go of betrayal. I hope this video was useful for you. Let me know if you have any questions or comments, just in the comments below, and I'll see you next time.